Hi everyone, welcome to Watch It Play Table Talkback. My name is Rodney Smith. In this episode, we're going to take a look at your responses to the question, what do we do when we make a mistake in a game? Let's dive right in. Keith Bennett says, I play Ticket to Ride with my father. I taught him ages ago, and he's got the hang of it and enjoys it, but he forgets every now and again to move his marker along the score track when he connects two cities. I used to remind him, but I don't now, since I believe he knows the game well enough to remember for himself. I can appreciate this approach if you've told someone something over and over and over again, and they keep forgetting. At a certain point, you're going to start feeling like you're playing the game not just for yourself, but for the other person as well, and that's not nearly as fun. So you probably have to let the person suffer the consequences after you've given them a number of opportunities to remember. Now that said, my friend Pep has an interesting approach to this, I think. He looks at the wording of the rules and or say the card effect. As an example, if it said, when you connect two cities, you may score 5 points, then he would look at that as optional. And if you forget, too bad, that's on you. On the other hand, if the rules say, when you connect two cities, score 5 points, and you forget, he would probably pipe up there and say, well, no, you need to collect those 5 points because that's how the game is intended to be played. So that's a different way of looking at it, and perhaps a guideline you might want to consider. Of course, I know, because you put this in the comments, your method works a little better for you because you win more often that way. So that's something else to consider. Let's go on to the next one. Barry Reynolds here says, how I feel about making a mistake depends on the mistake. If I make a stupid decision that will cost me the game, I get mad with myself for being an idiot. If I simply overlook something, I usually brush it off. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm the same way. I'm sure many of us are. If you make a mistake that's critical to the outcome of the game, then you're going to feel worse about it than if it's just something, oh, you know, it might slow down my progression in the game, or it's something that's a little more negligible. You just brush it off and who cares? Matthew McChesney offered this little anecdote that he shares with people he's teaching a game. This is not only a game, it is also a logic puzzle. Until we get all the pieces of the logic puzzle together, the game won't play as smooth as it can. I just thought that was an interesting point. Really, when we sit down to play a game, there is almost two levels happening here. First of all, we all have to figure out how the game works and plays. As I said in the first episode, this is a little different than video games because most of the times you can just sit down and start playing right away. And the game will guide you and make sure you don't do anything you're not supposed to. With a board game, there's all kinds of mistakes we can make right off the bat, just in comprehending the rules, in understanding the strategies behind it, and all the rest of it. So I think appreciating that there is kind of a two-step process to playing a game. First of all, getting everyone on the same page and understanding how the rules work and how it all comes together. And then actually playing the game, let's say, in the way it was intended, where people all have a certain level of competency. That's the place you're trying to get to, and I think it's good that people know, hey, we are going to have to get there first. Gabriel Conolito wrote, I am the one that teaches the game usually. In most cases, I try to have some cheat sheets to help players, or most importantly, help me teach the game. I am a big advocate of player aids and cheat sheets. If I have a game I like, I immediately go to Board Game Geek, try to find the best player aid possible, print it out, and stick it right in the game box. That way, as long as I've read the rules through at least once and had a good understanding of the game at one point in time, then in the future when I go to play, usually just referring to that cheat sheet, that's going to do the job. Also, if you think you have made a mistake during the gameplay, sometimes a rule book is a hard place to go rooting through to try to find the answer. And a cheat sheet that condenses all the rules onto one sheet or two is much easier to sift through and helps keep the game moving a little smoother. Raphael Borges says, when I win a game, especially a cooperative game, because of a rules mistake, I'm no longer satisfied with the win and I have to play again. I'm the same way, Raphael. Part of the enjoyment of playing a cooperative game for me is the challenge. I don't want to win every time. And if I do win, and it's because I made a mistake, that is not satisfying. I'm going to have to play again and see if I can beat it playing correctly. I was going to move on to the next comment, but then I got thinking a little bit more about my response. And I think I feel differently about competitive games. If I win during a competitive game and a mistake was made, as long as we found a way around the table to balance out that mistake, maybe we agree, okay, for this game we're all going to play by this wrong rule so that it's fair for everyone. In that case, I wouldn't be as disappointed if somebody else won or if I won. I wouldn't feel like the win was no longer legitimate. But in a co-op game, if we were playing it wrong, it's probably in a way that's making the game easier. And in that case, I don't want to because, as I said before, I like a cooperative game to be difficult and I want to win because we overcame those challenges. Ray Fay wrote, I spend most of my gaming time with my wife and kids. The first game that we play is always a let's learn how to play game. During this game, no move is really final as we make lots of mistakes throughout the game, especially the kids. The next game, a move that is made is final. I found this is a better teaching method than always letting them take back a move. It makes them look harder for what they want to do than just to make a move knowing they can take it back and redo something else later. Ray, I feel the same way, not just towards the other players at the table, but also myself. Very lenient in that first game. In the second or third game, I feel like if I make a mistake, I should just take the punishment, suffer the consequence, because hopefully that's going to help me remember the next time not to do it again. Whereas, as you say, if we're always allowed to take it back, then you're going to take the gameplay a little less seriously when you're sitting around the table. Zach Tedford has a good point, though. I think the right thing to do is to get the feel of the people you are playing with and make your decision off of their reactions, because it's about the fellowship and getting together with those people that is important, and that's what makes the hobby fun. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you get the sense at the table that everyone else playing wants to be able to take back their moves all of the time, I think you need to kind of adjust to that, or say, you know what, this isn't the gaming group for me, right? Because I think it's probably better that more people at the table are enjoying themselves than satisfying the needs of one individual. Stephen Garrison wrote, my group calls me the rules lawyer because I'm that player who says, actually, you can't do that, or you're interpreting that rule incorrectly, it's actually this way. See here? This has made me have to grow very thick-skinned because I get those looks from the other players. You've ruined the game for me, or you're just nitpicking to win. Listen, Stephen, I sympathize with you. I don't know that I'm a rules lawyer, but when I see something being done wrong in a game, I tend to speak up and say, hey, I think that's not the way it's supposed to be played. Because my feeling is that people should want to be playing the game the right way, unless they're doing some kind of house rule thing and they've made an intentional decision to play it differently. So, Stephen, if you were at my table and you're piping up, I'd appreciate it. I think the problem is probably in the delivery. If people have the impression that the rules lawyer is just kind of sitting there at the edge of the table waiting to pounce every time you make a mistake, or they're taking a certain amount of gleefulness and pointing out everyone's errors, that's going to make their helpful contributions a little harder to swallow. Also, you have to be careful. If you're going to get really boisterous about your opinions on the rules, make sure you know the rules correctly. Because otherwise, you're just slowing down the game and wasting everyone's time, and they're not going to believe you the next time you actually have a legitimate rules mistake you'd like to try to correct. Ray Myers wrote, I'm all about victory, but if someone simply forgot a move because of a distraction and it costs them the game, that's a hollow victory. I think a gamer should want to earn their victories. He went on to share a story. Some of you might be familiar with it. It was a marathon, I believe. And one of the runners, the one who was far and away in first place, just misjudged where the finish line was. So they slowed down. They stopped before they got to the finish line. And the runner, I believe, in second place, caught up to them. And rather than taking advantage of this opportunity and passing them, pointed ahead and showed the person, hey, here's the finish line. And then ushered them basically there so they could win as they would have otherwise done if it wasn't for an honest mistake. First of all, something about that story really gives me hope for humanity. And secondly, I like to think that that's my approach to gaming as well. If it's something really, really obvious, then I would want the person to see it and take advantage of that opportunity, not have me be the one taking advantage of that opportunity. Of course, in an official competition where there's prizes on the line, I can understand people wanting to take advantage of those missed opportunities, because the idea is we're going to practice in advance so that we don't make these kinds of mistakes. But if it's an oversight, and you can tell it's just an honest oversight due to a lack of experience or a new setting, I think it's good to show a little bit of grace. Josh Peacock writes, I spend most of my gaming time teaching, and I always find it infuriating when I happen to forget rules at a critical moment. My general theory is to establish with all players that the first game is always practice. Josh, I am right there with you. I hate being responsible for someone not understanding something in the game, perhaps changing their strategy because of that. And it was my fault. I didn't explain something clearly. And that's why people at my gaming group, I always say to them, The first game doesn't count. And I'm saying that just as much for their sake as for my own. I want to take them off the hook and say, listen, don't worry about whether you win or lose. You're just learning the game here. You're not going to understand the strategies perfectly yet. Some people at the table might get it faster than other people. Let's at least get one game under our belt before we start taking this super seriously. But also for my own sake, I know there's a good chance I'm going to mess up something. I'm not going to remember everything. It's not until we're actually playing the game, we get to that point in the game where something triggers my memory and I might go, oh yes, this is another win condition I forgot to mention at the very start of the game. So let's all give each other a little bit of room to make some mistakes, especially in our first games. Now, just before we move on to the video responses, I want to say a very quick thank you to all the people who wrote in and contributed to this table talkback. It's unfortunate I can't read out all of your responses. There were many thoughtful ones, but I think I can summarize a majority of them in this way. If you're playing a game for the first time, or if you have new people at the table, then be lenient. I think people saw and had an appreciation for the need to let people take their mistakes back, do poor moves over again, and have a chance to learn the game. But then once everyone's had that practice or first game, then it's time to sort of live with your mistakes and learn from them. All right, let's take a look at some of the contributions we received from our video submissions, and until the next episode, thanks for watching.
Hi Rodney, it's Keith Collins here with a response for Table Talk. There's only really one rational and justifiable thing to do whenever you end up with a major rules error in the game. You just simply have to...
Rodney, your video on mistakes really talked to me this week, mainly because I'm installing wood floors in my new apartment and I have screwed up a lot. I have installed underlayment incorrectly, I have cut pieces of wood incorrectly, I have nail gunned things in the wrong place, and most recently I have bought the wrong piece of trim 3 times now. Yeah, so I'm back here to get another one. So your mistakes video really hit a chord with me. So I decided I would record for you in Home Depot because this is how I do things on my channel. Yeah. So mistakes in gaming. I make a lot when I'm teaching, like what you talked about, and it's kind of one of those things where like my friends are aware of it, and so it's kind of a running joke that Tiffany cheats, where I do the thing where like somebody goes to do something and then I stop them like, oh wait, no, actually you can't do that, I forgot a rule. And so the running joke is that I only ever do that to cheat, and thus that's how I win. But I don't actually, my friends know that I don't actually do that. But it's one of those things that when I'm playing with people that I don't know, or if I'm teaching people that don't know the games, I try to be very, what's the word, human? Like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm an expert in the game or anything like that. Like, I want them to be able to make mistakes, and I want them to be able to recover those, because I feel like if you're learning a new game and you're not so sure about the hobby, let alone this game that somebody is telling you is amazing and that you have to play, then if somebody calls you out on your mistakes and tells you, no, 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 you can't do that, like, you'll get upset. You need to encourage people to make mistakes. Like, when people are like, I don't know if I can do this on my turn, I'm just like, well, what do you want to do? Like, just lay it out, let's see if it even works. And if it doesn't, you know, just Control-Z it, and that's fine. And usually the people that I play with are self-regulating in that regard. Like, they start the game making mistakes, and then they realize that we're letting them, you know, do this kind of stuff, and then eventually you just self-regulate, and it's fine. Me, personally, now, when I game, I don't do that. If I make mistakes, I just own it, and I go with it, and then that's it. So yeah, I think it's a progress, and I think it's something that you do as you learn to be a gamer, and it's also apparently something you do when you are like a not professional contractor. Oh, sorry, sir. Maybe I should get out of Home Depot.
Hi there, I'm Charlotte, and this is Justin.
I think that was my line.
Whatever.
Okay. We have kind of 2 established etiquettes for gameplay. When we're all learning the game, or you're teaching the game to someone new, everyone in our group kind of helps each other out, gives little tips, hints. We don't let anyone like do every possible move, because that would drag on forever.
Yeah, we all learn together.
Yeah, and that way everyone's having fun and they don't feel stupid and they can get into the game. But then...
yeah, after we know how to play the game and we've played it like 5 or 6 times, all bets are off. You make a mistake in a game, the game's mine. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
I don't feel bad about that.
Not at all.
It's not like it's the last time we're ever going to play this game.
Not at all.
Hopefully. Or like make money playing game. oh, it'd be awesome if you could make money playing games. And I think we're really lucky because we seem to have attracted a lot of gamers are of the same attitude,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yep.
We haven't really attracted any, like rule mongers. But if they did come to our group, I would just adorably tease them mercilessly until they bend to my will. And then we'd all share the same attitude again.
Is that how I got married to you?
No.
Okay.
So you always say, thanks for watching at the end of your videos. And Rodney, we just want to say, thanks for shooting.
Wow, when I first read your question, I thought of my dad. Yes. You may ask why. Well, when you were a child, you used to play games with your dad, yeah, like me, and every time he'd beat you and he'd win and he'd gloat about it. But now I'm older and I've got all these other types of games. Whenever we play games together, I want to have my revenge and beat him. And so I teach him a game and we start playing, or we play an old game that we know well, and as soon as he starts losing, he starts cheating and making up his own rules. Or he will forget rules and I'll go and do a maneuver and he said, you can't do that, you're cheating. And I said, no, I told you you can do this. And then there'd be a big argument about, did I say this rule or did I not say this rule? And it's times like these when I think, well, yeah, this was a mistake. Playing with your dad is a big mistake. But then I remember that my dad has a brain tumour and his memory is not as good as it used to be. And in amongst the anger that I feel against him and wanting to play a game properly and beat him on a level playing field, you know, it's easy to forget that he has this disability which he can't control. And yeah, so if you're playing a game and you forget the rules of a game, what do? Well, in my circumstance, I do one of two things. If we make an error with the rules, we either continue playing the game with that error. For example, when we first played Carcassonne a long time ago, we forgot about the farmer, and so the rest of the game we didn't use the farmer. But the other thing we do is we say, oh, all right, then in the next round, we forgot that rule, but now that rule is in stay and it's in play, so we can play with that rule now. So until next time, Hakuna Matata.
For me personally, I'm on the opposite side of the argument that Rodney stated. I personally feel that even if your opponent makes a stupid mistake, there's still a victory you should be proud of. I'll give the following 3 reasons why. The first one, if I'm teaching a game or I am basically the person's first game, I basically still will play seriously, but during that person's turn I will give him options and I'll help him out, but the final decision still rests on him. In a way, I still feel that if I win, I can be proud of it, and here's the thing, if he wins, he can be proud of his victory. The second one comes from my favorite person to play with in the world, only because not played with Rodney. His name is Dion Gardner. He's also Geek of the Week, number 421, and he taught me the idea on tainted victories. Now the idea is pretty simple, that if you keep taking back your turns and all that, even if you win, it's a tainted victory. You know, I mean, he's jokish about it and all that, but I like the idea a lot, because if basically it's like if everybody else around the game had 1 turn and you get 4 turns because you keep taking back your turns, right? Even if you win, should you be proud of it? I don't think so. To me, a victory is also about you paying attention to your plan. You know, if you messed up your plan, you know, too bad. You know, then it's actually bouncing back from those really big mistakes that I feel really makes a victory very fulfilling. So that's basically my idea on the topic. So thank you very much. Till next word.